You're checking in with the doctor for the greatest fantasy baseball podcast in the world, starring your hosts, Dr. Fantasy.
I'm ready to rock and roll today.
And Rydawg.
Harrison Masturbator.
Welcome to Doc and Dog, your fantasy baseball geniuses, presented by the Fantasyholics.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Doc and Dog, presented by the Fantasyholics. My name is Jordan Jaika, aka Dr. Fantasy, and I am here with my co-host Rydawg, and we are in the middle of our MLB mini-series where we are talking about our catcher rankings, most exciting position in baseball. So today we have our catchers ranked 13th through 16, so we'll hop right into it. Before we do, though, let me mention this is presented by the Fantasyholics, so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and our new website, thefantasyholics.com. So now we'll hop into it. Number 16 in our consensus rankings is dArnaud, now with the Atlanta Braves. Last season, he batted .251 with 16 home runs and 69 RBIs. He had a nice little stretch with the Rays last year. Apparently, he had one at-bat with the Dodgers, which I didn't really realize before putting this together. But I've always liked dArnaud. He's struggled with injuries throughout the course of his career with the Blue Jays and Mets. And when he's healthy, though, he's a very strong offensive player. The reason I probably don't have him ranked a few notches higher is because they also have Tyler Flowers there, and most likely they're going to split time, which a lot of these catchers, that's the problem with ranking them, is a lot of them you'll see split time. So dArnaud has decent upside, though, with 16 home runs, 69 RBIs, and I think that's reasonable to expect if he stays healthy and gets his at-bats.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'd also like to point out that 16 home runs is actually Darnaud's career high. So I think with the Braves, he should see. I could see him having almost 80 RBIs. That Braves offense is really, really, really heavy, and it's just all around built. So I think a lot of people get on base, and he should drive in a lot of runs, and that's a fairly hitter's ballpark, I think, as well. So it should be a good season for him.
I would say with these rankings and the numbers that we're in right now, a lot of these guys are really not going to be drafted frequently unless you're in a two-catcher league. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've drafted two catchers, so, probably only a few of these guys are getting drafted, or they're one of the first few pickups off a waiver. So with that being said, number 15 is Francisco Mejia. I had him 16, you had him 14, consensus of 15. Last season, he batted .265 with 8 home runs, 22 RBIs. The reason that I have him right in that 15-16 range as a middle-tier catcher, too, the reason, he's young. I like the Padres' offense with Tatis and Machado. So they have a lot of potential there. Mejia is still relatively young. I believe he's 25. So he still has upside, doesn't have a ton of injury concerns being that young. So he's very unproven, but I like his upside.
Yeah, that's the thing with Mejia. He's this will be his third year in the league. He came up and played like a couple games, 2018. Mejia just hasn't adapted to the major league level, and the reason why Mejia is still up is because he's a really great defensive catcher, but his pop has been there before in the minors and in college. I think he can find it this year, and especially with having Tatis and Machado and everyone else on the team as well that he has to hit around. I think Mejia can find his way potentially in the top 10, but for now I just have him at 14. I think he needs to be a little bit more proven before I feel comfortable putting him in the top 10.
Yep. Then number 14, we have Tom Murphy of the Mariners. I have him 13th, you have him 17th, so I have him a little higher. Last season, he batted .273 with 18 home runs and 40 RBIs. And I'm pretty, first I'll say that I know the Mariners don't have a very strong offense, and I know that's a big check in the negative column for him, but he is batting cleanup for him, so he will have opportunities to drive in some runs. even though the top of their order isn't overly strong, somebody's got to drive in runs. Somebody's going to score for him. But to me, the upside is he did bat 273. And you mentioned this with Yadier Molina a little bit. And I was just looking. There's only 8 catchers last season that hit above 270, and Tom Murphy was one of them. So he was 6th in the league as far as catcher batting average. So to me, he's going to drive in, in a full season, 50, probably closer to 60 runs, 20 home runs, 270 average, and that's really solid for a catcher.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mentioned it before in a previous pod that I thought there was only 3 or 4 that batted 270. I didn't know there was 8, but it's still very few out of the 20 catchers we have ranked. Not even half of them were able to hit 270. So it's always a plus when you find someone that bats 270. I just don't like the Mariners' offense at all to even put Murphy in my top 15. I mean, you make a good point. Someone's got to get on base. But, I mean, I look at the top of that lineup, the top 3. Who's going to get on base?
Right.
That's my thing. Well, I mean, hopefully maybe somebody comes up and is an unexpected player that just keeps getting hot. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Then last in today's episode, number 13, is Jorge Alfaro from the Marlins. I had him 12th. You had him 16th. So once again, another guy that I had higher than you. And once again, I understand part of fantasy absolutely is opportunity. But when it comes to catchers, I mean, he's very talented. I really wish Alfaro was in a better situation because I really think he could be a top 5 fantasy catcher in a better situation. He batted 262 last year with 18 home runs and 57 RBIs, even chipped in 4 stolen bases. And based on his advanced metrics, he hits the ball harder. Last season, this is actually true, he hit the ball harder a higher percentage than any other catcher in Major League Baseball. So he absolutely rips the ball, but it's once again, he's kind of limited by his opportunity with the Marlins. But I do expect that the Marlins are going to call up some of their younger players that can get on base more. So I think Alfaro, I have him as my last catcher 1, and I think that's fair for him just because of his upside. I recognize that his upside's kind of capped by the lineup around him, but I personally just like his individual talent a lot.
Yeah, and I think his potential's capped until he goes elsewhere. I mean, he's probably the only hitter on that team that's actually above average right now, other than, of course, the almighty Jonathan Villar. But it's just 2 people. I wish he was on any other team that's at least average with a lineup. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I would love him. I think he would be in my top 10 easily, top 10. But I just don't see it. I mean, he'll get his home runs for sure, and that's a huge ballpark in Miami as well. So it's just it's a horrible situation, horrible lineup, horrible ballpark.
Oh, I won't tell Zach that you said that.
It's okay.
But I think that's all that we have for this installment. So this was our catcher rankings, number 13 through 16. This has been another episode of Doc and Dog presented by the Fantasy Holics. If you don't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check out our new website at thefantasyholics.com. And we will see you guys next time.
See you later.